Europe just experienced some pretty big blackouts across multiple countries, mainly Spain and Portugal. And the mainstream media is coming out saying they don't have an answer as to why this happened, which is pretty strange here, almost 48 hours after the event took place. We can see every mainstream source, Newsweek, Associated Press, everyone's just saying that the power is back on. Even here, we have the Spanish Prime Minister saying no conclusive information on what caused the blackout. This is a little frightening because some people are saying, what are they doing? Are they testing for a future blackout? I mean, we know that the way they view the climate and all that stuff, they practically would really like to have climate lockdowns, shutting off power to multiple countries for the sake of what they say is for the climate. But in reality, it's because they want, more control. You take away the power, you take all that away, you gain the control over the population. So here is the initial reporting on the event that took place. Spain declares a state of emergency with fears that the power cut could last up to a week, which would be really bad on so many levels. Here's a little bit more of the reporting on the event of the blackout.
Portugal and parts of France. Tens of millions impacted as rail travel ground to a halt. Flights across Europe were cancelled and subway stations plunged into darkness. Families following emergency lighting to get back to the surface.
Everything started kind of going, awkward as our phone stopped working, the lights in the hotel went out.
Phone service and ATMs also knocked out in another alarming example of the power grid's fragility. Spain's Prime Minister tonight saying the cause is still a mystery. While at Spanish supermarkets, there was panic buying. And at the Madrid Open, the blackout halting play and cutting off Coco Gauff's post-match interview.
To not get a lot of sleep.
The American star later posting from darkened locker rooms. And the Spanish government says tonight the power is starting to come back on, while the European Union is saying at this point there's no indication this was caused by a cyber attack.
So that's the main thing that they're saying right off the bat, is that there's no indication that this is caused from a cyber attack. And it's just almost like, what are they kind of lining up? Are they trying to say that this is something that's going to be common now into the future? Again, if the power did go out for long periods of time, that would be beyond comprehensible, really, about how bad that could be. We'll see a little bit more into that here in a minute. Let's look a little bit more about exactly what happened.
Combined, this is massive. Nothing is working. The trains are not working. The underground metro system is not working. People were seen walking out of a dark tunnel with their flashlights on their phones. The Madrid Open tennis tournament as well had to be suspended. Players had to walk off the court mid-match because the scoreboards, the cameras as well, were everything shut down.
Everything runs off of power when you come to think about it. Phones, how we eat, grocery stores, traveling. And if it was caused by an EMP in the future, or if an EMP just happened, whether from solar or from weaponry, it would shut even the traveling abilities down from airplanes, from cars, everything. It could be really crazy. We'll look into a little bit about if prophecy mentions that, and then another reference to darkness coming upon the earth in the Bible. That's kind of a cool reference as well. We'll look at this, and then we'll check some of that stuff out. Last reference here to the actual event of what happened.
Spain's Prime Minister has said there's no conclusive information on a cause so far. A cyber attack appears to have been ruled out, whereas Portugal's grid operator blames a phenomenon called induced atmospheric vibration affecting high voltage power lines in Spain. However, there's little evidence so far of extremes in temperature, winds, or geomagnetic storms.
The fact that there's no answer to this, which is really strange. In the past that Europe had these types of blackouts, there was always a cause from weather or something like this. And the fact that right now they're saying there's no answer, that's what makes me a little nervous, saying, well, this could just start happening now because global warming, the climate, overpopulation, we're stretching the power grids too far. And then it's just now going to be a common thing that the power goes out.
That can fry power grids. At around 12:15 Spanish time, something did go badly wrong, however. Around half the power grid on the Iberian Peninsula seems to have gone instantly offline. An outage in one or more parts of a power network causes a sudden imbalance in supply and demand. In order to protect infrastructure, either power plants shut down or customers are disconnected. If it happens faster than grid operators can rebalance the grid, outages can spread as automatic circuit breakers trip like dominoes. While grids can fail instantly, they can take far longer to switch back on. With an outage of this scale, it requires parts of the grid to be switched back on step by step, balancing supply and demand, and that process can take many hours or even days.
In some cases, on a large enough scale of an event like that, they say it could take weeks, months, years, which we'll look at the numbers in a bit. If something like that happened for years or months, it's devastating what that would actually do to the population. Now, I wanted to show this because some people are, starting to bring this strange spiritual concept into what's happening. And this is something to just watch out for as we head into the future, as everything becomes spiritualized with the spiritual deceptions that are growing in the earth. This one in relation to the Schumann resonance. Let's see what this is.
And solar wind during that outage. Overall, the Schumann resonance is delivering a lot of heart space green energy, which is a little bit of a spike. This is to remind you to stay prepared, not scared, that yes, there are possibilities that we could have a huge solar flare and that the power could be affected by.
Anyway, this is just like an electromagnetic weight that the earth has these different frequencies, and then people are now using this, well, they've been using this as like a spiritual metric of like, oh, it's predicting what's happening, or it's showing people's hearts or whatever, and it's complete nonsense, so just be aware of that. So let's listen to this video a little bit into how likely is a nuclear EMP attack, because that would put out the power grid, and it wouldn't just put it out for hours or days, it would probably put it out for months or years.
EMP would come after the cyber attack.
I think so.
But you think it's going to happen?
I think so. I mean, if anything, right, it doesn't mean troops are coming behind it. If anything, it's just to disrupt our way of life, disrupt our economy. I mean, look, just the cell phones being out for a little bit yesterday, how much it impacted people. I mean, you hit a major cyber attack followed by EMP and take out, a large part of our country's infrastructure. It doesn't take, I mean, of your listeners right now, like people should ask themselves, when's the last time you went out and hunted for your own food? I don't mean going like get a trophy buck. I mean going out on your own without a guide, paying somebody, go out hunting for your own food, fish for your own food, have to harvest water that you can't get from a tap. Like if you don't know how to do these things, you're in trouble. And when the grid goes down, it doesn't matter what kind of job you have, or how smart you are, what degrees you have. When the infrastructure of a country goes down, overnight, you'll be, I mean, first will come the chaos of people trying to survive, but you're going to be needing to survive. That's what, Mike Glover, a good friend of ours, wrote the book Prepped. I'd recommend that for Prepared. Is it Prepped or Prepared?
I think it's Prepared.
Yeah. It's an incredible read to have that kind of knowledge on hand, but you got to be prepared because, I mean, you can't trust. I used to feel good to be an American that I could trust our government was protecting us. But we're letting Chinese spy balloons fly over our country. Like, and people could have whatever political opinion they want, but if that balloon at any moment wanted to just hit a button, he could have shut down half of our country and would have been in the Stone Age immediately. Yeah. They have the ability to do that. And they could have did that at any moment that balloon was over our country.
I think I hate saying it's not a matter of if, it's when, but it's going to happen, man.
I think it's going to happen too.
Have you ever heard of David Dice?
I have not.
He produced this documentary called Grid Down, Power Up.
Okay.
And it talks about how vulnerable our power grid is. We're not even checking all of the transformers and stuff that we import from China, right? Mm-hmm. You see those big the chain link fence around a power station, and those huge transformers that are in there. We don't even check those for malware, spyware, Trojan horses, any of that. They don't even check them.
And meanwhile, we got hundreds of fighting age Chinese males with no women, no children coming across the southern border.
Yeah.
Some of them being caught with military papers in their hands. Coming across the southern border, we don't even know how many in our country or where they are right now.
The incompetence and lack of attention that people have paid to what is going on in this country is all coming to fruition right now.
We're going to pay a price. The American people are going to pay the price.
When do you think this is going to happen?
With the elections, with the elections coming up, 2024 elections coming up, people say conspiracy, right? I think the difference between a conspiracy and a prophet right now is about 2 weeks, right? Like give it about 2 weeks and it becomes prophecy. But I say this, and people, I'm not trying to scare people, but with the election year right now, I almost think there's people within our own government and political parties and political powers that want to allow something like this to happen this year.
That's the sad and scary truth of the matter. Thank God it didn't happen around the election time, but there are people within our government, of course, as he mentioned, they're allowing Chinese spy balloons to fly over our country. They have the technology. They could hit a button and shut down our grids. Almost the entire nation would be in complete blackout, and it would not be back up in hours or days. It would be months or years. And if that happened, things would be really bad. They have that capability. Of course, all this will have to play into what the Bible has to say exactly and Bible prophecy. But we know during the Great Tribulation, things will be really bad, and it'll be a tribulation like the world has never seen. And if you think about it, that could even be in relation to some of the technology that we have. The technology that we have now is technology like the world has never seen before. And those are the exact words Jesus said. It'll be tribulation like the world has never seen. It could be connected to some of the weaponry that's used like the world has never seen. Here's a little bit more information on what that would kind of look like and those involved in our government and how they're not doing anything to protect us from this. Absolutely crazy.
Possibly be the motive for not defending yourself in a sensible way from an EMP attack? Like, I don't get that at all.
Support from the electrical industry.
Ooh, really?
And I should say that the EMP committee, their estimate was 8 to 9 out of every 10 Americans could lose their life by the end of the first year. 500,000 people in the air at any given time on 1,000 flights, right? So that's lost.
Everyone on an airplane does.
Right. So that's 500,000 people at any moment. Very quickly after that, the SCADA systems begin to fail and you have fire, you have flood. Within 72 hours, you have meltdown at all nuclear facilities. Refrigeration has gone out at supermarkets and at the regional food warehouses. So the food supply ends. There's no access to ATMs or money or financial structure of any type. No access to your prescription medications. No access to law enforcement and no clean water and no food.
So the threats to the grid and to the lives of 350 million Americans are completely real and in some sense imminent. Like, we know this is going to happen at some point.
That's pretty scary to think about, to be honest. That really is. And the possibility of that happening is very real. That's such a massive event. I feel like somehow that would have to play in with prophecy because it would be really like a worldwide event if that happened. Because even if a nation did that to another nation, then allies start getting involved, then enemies start getting involved, and it could be really bad, really bad. And it would also initiate nuclear war as well, which is something that we should, that's kind of also prophesied in the Bible as well in the book of Zechariah, like that is going to happen. But again, I think all this when that happens, it'll be the last days, maybe even towards the wrath of God time, and probably some during the time of the Great Tribulation. So I did want to mention this because this is kind of in relation to this. Acts 2:20. The sun will be turned to darkness and the moon to blood before the coming of the great and terrible day of the Lord, or the great and glorious day of the Lord. That's in Acts 20. So that's going to happen. Massive events will take place here again. That reference to that prophecy in the book of Acts is from this in Joel 2:31. The sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the great and terrible day of the Lord comes. So that's just prophecy. So this is no reason to fear. It's just interesting that this is happening at this time. And again, there's no solution. They're saying there's no reason that this is happening. Why did it happen? No one knows why. And it just could very well play into these other theories. The sun, the reaction from the sun could even cause this as well. Or as nation rises versus nation and kingdom versus kingdom, it can initiate this as well. So keep that in mind. And it's just something to pay attention to. The wise person, Proverbs says, sees destruction coming and prepares for it. So just keep that in mind as you look into the future, not to be scared, not to be fearful. Any of this stuff could happen in 50, 100 years, but keep in mind, pray about it. And it's just for sure worth putting some thought into. But I thought this was really cool. We'll end this off because this is the good news. This is the hope. And it talks about the darkness that fell on the earth after Jesus, during the time of Jesus's crucifixion. And it was actually mentioned by other scholars of the time. And that can only happen because Jesus is the Messiah. He's the Savior of the world. The Bible is the truth. If your hope is in him, he will guide you and lead you.
The Bible says the earth went dark for a period of time. And I'm thinking, wouldn't somebody else have written something about this if the earth actually went dark during that time period? Well, there was a guy named Thales, who was a historian, who wrote a history of the Eastern Mediterranean world in about 50 AD. His works have been lost, but in the year 221, a guy named Julius Africanus had a copy of what he wrote, and he was kind of responding to it and said, oh yeah, Thales says that the darkness was as a result of an eclipse, which we knew it couldn't have been because of the timing of the
Because it was the Passover when he was crucified, and Passover is always a full moon.
Full moon.
That's how they know it's time for Passover.
A report by a Roman scholar and historian that is corroborating a claim in the scriptures that many people would read and say, that can't be true.
Wow. So that's pretty awesome. And that alone proves, so many different things when you look at the Bible and the events that took place, proves that Jesus is the Messiah. He's the Christ. He's real. And if he's real, He's the Messiah, he's the Christ. The Bible is real. And just like he says, put your trust in him. He will lead you. No reason to fear. Just wanted to bring these things to everybody's attention as we're seeing strange things happen in the earth. But if your hope is in Jesus Christ, the risen Lord, the Son of God, you have nothing to fear, and he will guide all of our lives.